You're listening to Detective Tapes. Hope you enjoy the story. A light drizzle fell over the quiet streets of Blackthorn, Pennsylvania, on the early morning of September 2nd, 2025. The cold wind snaked through the town's low-slung buildings, carrying the damp scent of old wood and wet asphalt. At the edge of Maple Street stood a three-story tenement, its gray facade and murky windows hiding secrets in plain sight. At just past 2 a.m., a frantic call shattered the silence of the Blackthorn police station. The caller was Amos Caldwell, the landlord, his voice trembling over the line. "There's a fire. Third floor, apartment 2. Smoke's everywhere. Send someone now." Amos, a wiry man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair, raced up the tenement's creaking stairs, a jangle of keys clutched in his hand. The third-floor hallway was choked with black smoke pouring from the cracks around apartment 2's door. He fumbled with the lock, flung the door open, and was hit by a wave of heat and acrid fumes. His eyes darted across the cramped room, a double bed, a single cot, a rickety wooden table. The thickest smoke billowed from the bathroom. The bathroom door was charred, as if someone had tried to burn it down. Amos shoved it open, and a blast of heat and smoke knocked him back, choking his lungs. The fire had died out, but embers glowed faintly in the ash-strewn floor. He twisted the faucet, grabbed a blanket from the bed, and smothered the smoldering remains. As the smoke cleared, Amos froze. There, curled on the tile, was a woman's body, skin blistered and blackened, burned spider-webbing across her limbs. Her face was twisted, eyes wide and lifeless, as if pleading to tell the tale of her final moments. By the time the first rays of dawn crept over Blackthorn, the tenement on Maple Street was cordoned off with yellow police tape. The drizzle had stopped, leaving the air heavy with the stench of charred wood and something far worse: death. Detective Evelyn Marsh, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 30s with a no-nonsense demeanor, stood at the center of apartment 2's bathroom, her boots crunching on the ash-covered tiles. The body still lay where Amos Caldwell had found it, now surrounded by forensic techs in white suits snapping photos and dusting for prints. Evelyn's partner, Detective Leo Carver, a burly man with a perpetual scowl, leaned against the doorway, scribbling in his notebook. "Female, mid-20s, severe burns on the right side," Evelyn said, crouching beside the body. "But these marks on her neck, purple, deep. Strangulation, not the fire, killed her." She pointed to a faint slash across the victim's chest. "And this knife wound. Post-mortem. Someone wanted to be sure." Carver grunted. "Fire's a sloppy cover-up. Amateur. But no fingerprints, no DNA so far. Whoever did this knew enough to clean up." Evelyn stood, her gaze sweeping the cramped bathroom. The door was scorched, the sink smeared with soot where Amos had doused the flames. Amos said the smoke was thick when he got here, but the fire was already out. Means the killer set it and left hours ago. Why burn the place if you're not destroying the body completely? Panic, maybe, Carver suggested. Or a message. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Or a distraction. They moved to the bedroom, where the air was clearer but no less oppressive. The room was sparse, a double bed with rumpled sheets, a single cot by the window, a small table cluttered with takeout containers. Evelyn noticed something odd beneath the double bed, a dark stain on the floorboards. She knelt, peering into the shadows, and her breath caught. "Leo, get over here." Carver joined her, and together they pulled the bed frame aside. Beneath it lay another body, a young woman, curled on her side. Her throat bore the same purple marks, but her face was marred by 2 vicious stab wounds, one through the neck, another piercing her eye. Blood had pooled beneath her, soaking into the wood. "Jesus," Carver muttered. 2 victims. Same MO, strangled, then stabbed after death. This guy's thorough. Evelyn's mind raced. The fire was centered in the bathroom, not here. Why hide this one and burn the other? And why 2 victims at all? She stood, scanning the room. Amos said 2 women rented this place, Clara Hensley and Nora Vale. Let's see if he can ID them. They found Amos outside, chain-smoking by the curb, his hands trembling. The crowd of onlookers had grown, neighbors whispering about the murder house on Maple Street. Amos looked up as Evelyn approached, his face pale. "I told you everything, Detective. I got the call. I ran up. I put out the fire. That's it. 2 women lived here, right?" Evelyn asked, her voice calm but firm. Clara Hensley and Nora Vale. Can you confirm which one's in there? Amos nodded, flicking ash from his cigarette. The one under the bed, that's Clara. I recognize her hair, her clothes. Been here less than a month. Quiet girl, worked at the cannery. The other one, in the bathroom? Never seen her before. Not Nora, I'm sure of it. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Carver. So where's Nora Vale? And who's the second victim? Amos shrugged. Nora's a loner. Keeps to herself. Works late shifts at the diner. Maybe she wasn't here when it happened. As for the other girl, I got no clue. Evelyn's gut told her Nora's absence was no coincidence. You said you got a call about the fire. Who was it? One of the other tenants, from apartment 3. Said they smelled smoke, thought it was an electrical fire. I told him to flip the breaker and I'd check it out. When I got here, the smoke was pouring out of apartment 2. Carver jotted this down. Any enemies? Anyone hassling Clara or Nora? Amos shook his head. They were new. Kept their heads down. This place is cheap. Mostly factory workers, drifters. No trouble till now. Evelyn thanked him and turned to Carver. We need Nora Vale. She's either a victim, a suspect, or a witness. And we need to ID the second girl. Back inside, the forensic team had finished their initial sweep. No fingerprints, no clear DNA, and the fire had destroyed most trace evidence in the bathroom. But one tech called Evelyn over to the balcony at the south end of the room. Found something, he said, pointing to a smudged shoe print in the ash near the railing. Size 10, men's athletic shoe. Could be the killer's. Evelyn studied the print, her mind ticking. Bag it. It's our first lead. By 9 a.m., the station was buzzing. Evelyn sat at her desk, a cup of cold coffee in hand, reviewing the initial reports. Clara Hensley, 21, strangled and stabbed, killed around 4 p.m. the previous day based on lividity. The second victim, still unidentified, died around midnight, also strangled, with a post-mortem knife wound. The 8-hour gap between murders nagged at Evelyn. Why 2 killings so far apart? Did the killer leave and return, or did he stay, waiting? Carver dropped a file on her desk. Got something from the neighbors. 2 of them saw Nora Vale around 8:30 p.m. last night, walking down the hall with another woman. If Clara was already dead by then, Nora didn't notice a body under her own bed. Evelyn frowned. Or she did and didn't report it. Either way, we need her. Get her phone number from Amos and track her down. An hour later, Amos provided Nora's number. Evelyn dialed, and after a few rings, a woman answered, her voice shaky. Hello. Nora Vale? This is Detective Evelyn Marsh, Blackthorn PD. We need you at your apartment on Maple Street. There's been an incident. A pause, then a gasp. Oh my God, what happened? Just come down. We'll explain when you get here. Nora arrived 30 minutes later, a slight woman with dark hair and anxious eyes. She clutched a worn jacket, her gaze darting to the police tape. Evelyn led her to a squad car for privacy. Nora, 2 women were found dead in your apartment last night. One's Clara Hensley, your roommate. The other, we don't know yet. Where were you? Nora's face crumpled. Dead? Clara? No, that can't. I was at a friend's place last night. I didn't know. She buried her face in her hands. Evelyn kept her tone steady. Start from the beginning. Tell me about yesterday. Nora took a shaky breath. Clara's my cousin. We moved here a month ago, got jobs at the cannery and the diner. Yesterday was my day off, so I went to Harrisburg to hang out with a friend, Ellie. I left around noon. Clara was in the apartment, on her phone. I came back around 8:30 p.m. with Ellie. Clara wasn't there, so I figured she went out. Then Sadie Brooks showed up, Clara's best friend from back home. She needed a place to crash for the night. Evelyn's pen paused. Sadie Brooks? Describe her. Early 20s, blonde, about my height. She and Clara grew up together. I'd met her a few times. Could she be the woman in the bathroom? Nora's eyes widened. Oh God, maybe. I don't know. Why didn't you stay at the apartment last night? Carver asked. Nora hesitated. It was crowded. Me, Ellie, Sadie, and Clara. If she came back, there wasn't enough room. We've got 1 double bed and a cot. I told Sadie to stay, grabbed some clothes, and went to Ellie's place. I didn't think. Evelyn noted the timeline. When you got back at 8:30, anything seem off? Nora frowned, thinking. Yeah, actually. Clara's bed was made, sheets all neat. She never does that. And her phone was on the table, another on the bed, with a half-written text saying she was at a friend's and wouldn't be back. Clara never leaves her phones behind. I thought it was weird, but Sadie was there, and Ellie was waiting, so I didn't dwell on it. Evelyn's mind churned. Clara was already dead by 4 p.m., her body hidden. Someone had tidied the bed, left the phones, and written that text to cover their tracks. Did you lock the door when you left? Nora nodded. Always do. Back at the scene, Evelyn pieced it together. The killer murdered Clara at 4 p.m., hid her body, and staged the room. Nora returned at 8:30, oblivious, and left Sadie behind. At midnight, Sadie was killed, her body dragged to the bathroom and burned. The killer was meticulous, patient. But why 2 victims? And why spare Nora? As the day wore on, a name surfaced from Nora's statement. Silas Reed, her ex-husband. Nora mentioned he'd shown up at the apartment 2 weeks ago, begging to reconcile. They'd argued, and he left. Evelyn's instincts flared. A scorned ex, a double murder, a missing Nora. It was too neat to ignore. Find Silas Reed, she told Carver. He's got some explaining to do. The Blackthorn police station was a squat, brick building that smelled of burnt coffee and regret. At noon on September 2nd, 2025, Detective Evelyn Marsh sat at her desk, the Maple Street murder case file splayed out like a grim mosaic. Photos of Clara Hensley's body, curled beneath the bed, throat bruised, face marred by post-mortem stab wounds, sat next to images of Sadie Brooks, her burned remains in the charred bathroom. The 8-hour gap between the killings was a puzzle Evelyn couldn't shake. Why kill Clara at 4 p.m., then wait until midnight for Sadie? Why stage a fire that didn't fully erase the evidence? Detective Leo Carver stormed in, his coat damp from the morning's drizzle. Got a lead on Silas Reed, Nora's ex lives 10 blocks from the tenement, picks up shifts at the cannery. Neighbors say he's been off lately, gone for hours, back at odd times. He's got a record, petty theft, a domestic call with Nora last year, though no charges stuck. Evelyn's eyes gleamed. Nora said he showed up 2 weeks ago, wanting to reconcile. She shut him down. That's motive, jealousy, rejection. A guy like that doesn't just walk away. Want me to haul him in? Carver asked, cracking his knuckles. Find him first, Evelyn said. And check his shoes. That size 10 print on the balcony's our best shot. Carver nodded and headed out. Evelyn turned back to the file, her mind tracing the timeline. Clara Hensley, 21, strangled at 4 p.m., her body hidden under the bed. The killer had tidied the room. Bed made. Clara's phone's left with a half-written text claiming she was at a friend's to delay suspicion. Nora Vale returned at 8:30 p.m. with her friend Ellie, met Sadie Brooks, who needed a place to crash, and left again. Sadie was killed at midnight, her body dragged to the bathroom and burned. The killer had lingered for hours, methodical, waiting. Silas Reed fit the profile, a scorned ex with access, motive, and maybe the nerve to hide in plain sight. Her phone buzzed. It was Riley, the forensic tech. Update on the shoe print, detective. Size 10, men's Nike Air, standard tread. Sold at every big box store in the state. No DNA, but there's ash in the print. Matches the bathroom fire. Could it be Amos Caldwell's? Evelyn asked. Nope. Amos wears size 9, different sole. This print's someone else. Evelyn hung up, her pulse quickening. The shoe print was their only physical evidence, but its ubiquity was a problem. She needed something to tie Silas to the scene, fast. By 3 p.m., Carver called. Found Silas at a buddy's place on Oak Street. Says he's been there all day. I'm bringing him in. Also got a warrant for his apartment. Shoes, clothes, anything that might match. Good, Evelyn said. Keep him talking. I want his story before he lawyers up. An hour later, Silas Reed sat in the interrogation room, a cramped space with flickering fluorescence and the faint tang of sweat. Silas was wiry, mid-30s, with a stubbled jaw and dark eyes that flicked nervously. His hands twisted on the table, nails chewed raw. Where were you yesterday, Silas? Evelyn asked, her voice steady but sharp. By the river. Fishing, Silas said, staring at the table. Got there around noon, stayed till late. After midnight, maybe. Alone? Carver asked, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. Yeah, just me. Quiet spot, no one bothers you. Evelyn tilted her head. 12 hours by the river? No food, no breaks, just you and a fishing pole. Silas nodded, too fast. I like it out there. Convenient, Carver said. No one to vouch for you. Silas's jaw tightened. Evelyn slid a photo across the table, Clara's body under the bed. Know her? Silas glanced at it, his face paling. Clara, Nora's cousin. Met her a few times when I stopped by the apartment. And Sadie Brooks. Evelyn pushed another photo forward, Sadie's burned remains. Silas shook his head. Never seen her. Evelyn leaned in. Here's the issue, Silas. 2 women are dead in your ex-wife's apartment. You've got history with Nora. Arguments, a bitter divorce. She says you showed up 2 weeks ago, begging to get back together. She said no. That hurt, didn't it? I didn't kill anyone, Silas snapped. Yeah, I wanted Nora back. We were good together, and she walked away. But I wouldn't hurt her or anyone else. Then why lie? Carver asked. We pulled traffic cams from Thatcher Square, near Nora's place. You were there at 10 a.m. yesterday, tailing her. Silas froze, his hands clenching. I just wanted to talk. She was with a friend, so I didn't get the chance. That's it. Talk about what? Evelyn pressed. Reconciling? Or something else? Silas's eyes darted away. I thought, maybe we could fix things. She's been dodging me, and I heard she's seeing someone new. I just wanted to know. Evelyn's gut twisted. Jealousy was a powerful motive. So you followed her. Then what? Went to her apartment? Waited for her? No. Silas's voice cracked. I went to the river, like I said. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Carver. Silas's story was shaky, but they needed more than suspicion. We're searching your place, Silas. If we find anything, shoes, clothes, a knife, it's over. Save us the trouble. Tell us the truth. I'm telling you, Silas said, his voice low. I didn't do it. After the interrogation, Evelyn and Carver headed to Silas's apartment, a dingy 1-bedroom above a pawn shop. The search team was already there, combing through closets and drawers. Evelyn spotted a row of shoes by the door, work boots, sneakers, all size 10. None were Nike Airs, and none matched the balcony print's tread. Too clean, Carver muttered. Guy's got no white sneakers, no ash, nothing. If he was at the scene, he ditched the evidence. Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. Check his phone. If he's hiding something, it's there. The tech team pulled Silas's search history, and what they found sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. Queries from the past month. Asterisk, how to commit the perfect murder. Kill without leaving evidence. Fastest way to strangle someone. Asterisk, the searches started around the time Nora moved out, escalating in the weeks before the murders. Planning, Evelyn said, staring at the screen. He was preparing. But no hard evidence, Carver said. No knife, no shoes, no DNA. We need that print to tie him to the scene. Evelyn's phone rang. It was Riley again. Got a tip from a guy who walks his dog near the canal, half a mile from Silas's place. Says he saw a man toss a pair of shoes into the water early this morning, around 4 a.m. Could be nothing, but the timing's suspicious. Send a team, Evelyn said. Fish them out. By dusk, a dive team was wading through the canal's muddy depths. The water was cold, the bottom littered with trash, bottles, plastic bags, rusted cans. After an hour, a diver surfaced, holding a pair of waterlogged white Nike Airs, size 10. Evelyn's heart raced as they bagged the shoes and rushed them to the lab. At the station, Riley compared the shoes to the balcony print. It's a match, he said, pointing to the tread pattern. Same model, same wear. And there's ash in the soles, identical to the bathroom fire. DNA? Evelyn asked. Testing now. We pulled a hair from the laces. If it's Silas's, we've got him. Evelyn returned to the interrogation room, where Silas sat, head in his hands. She tossed the bagged shoes onto the table. Recognize these? Silas's eyes widened, but he shook his head. Not mine. Found them in the canal, Evelyn said. Tread matches the print at the scene. Ash matches the fire. And we're testing for DNA. Want to change your story? Silas's face went ashen. I don't know anything about those shoes. Evelyn leaned close, her voice low. You followed Nora. You planned this. Clara and Sadie weren't your targets, were they? It was Nora. But she left, and you killed the others to cover your tracks. Silas's hands trembled, but he stayed silent. Evelyn stood, leaving him to stew. Outside, Carver was on the phone with Silas's mother, Iris Reed. She says Silas was home by 11 p.m. last night, Carver reported. But his kid, an 8-year-old, says Dad didn't get back till after 2 a.m. Kids sure woke up when Silas came in. Family alibi, Evelyn said. And it's cracking. Get Iris in here. Let's see who's lying. As night fell, Evelyn felt the case tightening around Silas Reed. The shoes, the searches, the timeline, it all pointed to him. But one question lingered. Why kill two women who weren't his target? And how had he slipped through the cracks for so long? The interrogation room at Blackthorn PD felt smaller with every passing hour, the air thick with tension and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. It was 8 p.m. on September 2nd, 2025, and Silas Reed sat slumped in his chair, his earlier defiance replaced by a nervous twitch in his jaw. Detective Evelyn Marsh stood across from him, arms crossed, the bagged Nike Air sneakers on the table like a silent accusation. The lab had just called. A single hair on the laces matched Silas's DNA. It wasn't enough for a conviction, but it was enough to tighten the noose. Evelyn slid a printout of Silas's phone search history across the table. How to commit the perfect murder. Ways to kill without leaving evidence. Fastest way to strangle someone, she read aloud, her voice cutting through the silence. You've been planning this for weeks, Silas. Since Nora left you. Silas's eyes flicked to the paper, then away. That's just curiosity. Doesn't mean I did anything. Curiosity, Carver snorted from the corner. You stalked your ex-wife, lied about your alibi, and now we've got your shoes at the crime scene. DNA doesn't lie, Silas. I told you. Those aren't mine, Silas muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Evelyn leaned in, her gaze unyielding. Here's what I think. You wanted Nora back. She said no, and it burned you up. You followed her to Thatcher Square yesterday morning, waiting for a chance to talk. When she left for Harrisburg, you went to her apartment. Clara was there, and things went wrong. You killed her, hid her body, and waited for Nora. But Nora didn't stay. She left with her friend, and Sadie Brooks was the one who got caught in your trap. So you killed her too and set the fire to cover it all up. Silas's hands clenched, his knuckles white. You're wrong. I didn't touch them. Then explain the shoes, Evelyn said. Found in the canal, half a mile from your place, hours after the murders. Tread matches the print on the balcony. Ash matches the fire. And your DNA's on them. Silas opened his mouth, then closed it, his face ashen. Evelyn pressed on. We talked to your mother, Iris. She says you were home by 11 p.m. last night. But your son, Tommy, says you didn't get back until after 2 a.m. He's 8, Silas. Kids don't lie about that. Silas's head snapped up, panic flashing in his eyes. Tommy's wrong. He was half asleep. Was he? Evelyn asked. Because your father backs him up. Says he got home from a late meeting around 2 a.m., and you weren't there. You asked your mother to lie for you, didn't you? Told her to say you were home by 11. Silas's shoulders sagged, his breathing shallow. Evelyn knew she was close. Tell me the truth, Silas. You were in that apartment. You killed Clara and Sadie. But they weren't your real target, were they? It was Nora. Silas's eyes glistened, and for a moment, Evelyn thought he might break. But he shook his head. I didn't do it. Evelyn stepped back, letting the silence weigh on him. She nodded to Carver, and they left the room. Outside, Iris Reed waited in the lobby, her face drawn, clutching a worn purse. She was a small woman, her gray hair pulled back tightly, her eyes darting nervously. Mrs. Reed, Evelyn said, sitting across from her. You told us Silas was home by 11 p.m. last night. But Tommy and your husband say it was after 2 a.m. Why'd you lie? Iris's hands trembled. I didn't mean to. Silas asked me to say he was home early. He said he didn't want trouble. I thought he was just out drinking or something. Drinking? Carver asked. Or covering up a double murder? Iris gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. No, he wouldn't. Silas isn't like that. He followed Nora yesterday morning, Evelyn said. We have him on camera at Thatcher Square. His shoes match the crime scene. His phone shows he was researching how to kill. Help us, Iris. Tell us what you know. Iris's eyes filled with tears. He came home late, okay? After 2 a.m. I heard the door, saw him come in. He looked scared. Said he'd been fishing, but his clothes were dirty, like he'd been crawling somewhere. I didn't ask questions. He's my son. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Carver. The alibi was crumbling. Did he say anything about Nora? About the apartment? Iris shook her head. He's been hung up on her since the divorce. Kept saying she was seeing someone new, someone better. It ate at him. But I never thought. Evelyn thanked her and returned to the case file. The timeline was clear now. Silas was unaccounted for during the murders. The shoes, the DNA, The lies, it all pointed to him. But the why still gnawed at her. Why kill Clara and Sadie? Why not Nora, if she was the target? Carver interrupted her thoughts. Labs got more on the shoes. Trace blood on the laces, matches Sadie Brooks. Silas is done. Evelyn's heart raced. She stormed back into the interrogation room, slamming the lab report on the table. Blood, Silas. Sadie's blood on your shoes. You were there. You killed them. Silas stared at the report, his face crumpling. For a long moment, he said nothing, his hands shaking. Then, in a whisper, he spoke. It wasn't supposed to be them. Evelyn leaned forward, her voice low. Tell me. Silas took a ragged breath. It was Nora. I wanted her to hurt, like she hurt me. She left me, threw away 10 years like it was nothing. Then I heard she was meeting some rich guy, moving on. I couldn't let her have that life, not after everything. Go on, Evelyn said, her voice steady. I went to her place yesterday, Silas said, his voice breaking. Morning, to talk. She was with a friend, so I followed them to Thatcher Square. When she left for Harrisburg, I went to the apartment. The back window had a loose screen. I got in. I waited in the bathroom. Thought I'd catch her when she came back. And Clara? Carver asked. Silas's eyes dropped. She came home around 4. Found me in the bathroom. She screamed, said she'd call the cops. I panicked, grabbed her, choked her. I didn't mean to. I just didn't want her to tell. I stabbed her after, to be sure. Then I hid her under the bed, cleaned up, made it look like she left. And Sadie? Evelyn pressed. Silas swallowed hard. I stayed, waited for Nora. She came back around 8:30 with her friend and Sadie. I hid under the cot by the window. Too many people. I couldn't do anything. Nora left with her friend, said she was staying somewhere else. Sadie stayed. I thought, if I left, she'd find Clara, call the police. So I waited. Around midnight, she was asleep. I crept out, but she woke up, saw me. I choked her too. Then I dragged her to the bathroom, set the fire with some clothes and towels. Thought it'd cover everything. Evelyn's stomach churned. You burned the place to erase your tracks, but you left the shoes. Silas nodded, his voice barely audible. I threw them in the canal after. Thought no one would find them. Evelyn stood, her mind reeling. Silas's confession tied up the case, but the weight of his motive, jealousy, betrayal, a twisted need for control, left a bitter taste. You killed 2 women who did nothing to you, just to hurt Nora. And you still failed. Silas buried his face in his hands, silent. Outside, Carver shook his head. Guy's a coward. Couldn't face Nora, so he took it out on her cousin and her friend. Evelyn nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. Silas's obsession with Nora was a dark mirror of the town's own hidden grudges, the kind that festered in quiet streets and dim apartments. Let's wrap this up, she said. He's going away for a long time. The courtroom in Blackthorn's County Courthouse was a study in contrasts. Polished oak benches gleaming under fluorescent lights, and the heavy air of justice about to be served. It was April 15, 2026, 7 months after the murders on Maple Street shook the small town. Silas Reed stood before the judge, his wrists cuffed, his once defiant eyes now hollow. The gallery was half full, locals, reporters, and Nora Vale, sitting in the back row, her face a mask of grief and resolve. Detective Evelyn Marsh watched from the side, her arms crossed, the weight of the case still lingering like smoke she couldn't shake. The judge's voice was steady as he read the verdict. Silas Reed, for the murders of Clara Hensley and Sadie Brooks, you are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. A murmur rippled through the room, but Silas didn't react, his gaze fixed on the floor. Evelyn caught Nora's eye. The woman's hands trembled, but she didn't look away. Outside, the spring air was crisp, the sky a pale gray that matched the town's mood. Evelyn found Nora by the courthouse steps, lighting a cigarette with shaking fingers. You okay? Evelyn asked, knowing the answer. Nora exhaled a plume of smoke. No, but I will be. He took Clara, took Sadie, and for what? Because I wouldn't go back to him. Her voice cracked, anger and sorrow braided together. I never thought he'd. I thought he was just broken, not a monster. Evelyn nodded, her mind replaying Silas's confession. He'd wanted to hurt Nora, to destroy the life she was building without him. Clara and Sadie were collateral damage, killed to cover his tracks when Nora slipped through his grasp. The fire, the staged text, the hidden bodies, It was all a desperate attempt to erase his failure. But the shoes, tossed in the canal, had betrayed him. I keep thinking, Nora said, her voice barely above a whisper. If I'd stayed that night, would it have been me? Or would he have killed us all? You couldn't have known, Evelyn said. He was unraveling long before that day. His phone showed he'd been planning something since you left him. Obsessed, jealous. He couldn't let you go. Nora's eyes glistened. We were married 10 years. I carried us, paid the bills, raised Tommy. He never stepped up. When I left, I didn't take anything, just my freedom. And he hated me for it. Evelyn thought of the case file, the small details that painted a bigger picture. Nora had told her about the final straw, a family gathering where her grandfather's $300 went missing. Everyone suspected Silas, the outsider, the man always short on cash. Nora had confronted him, and though he denied it, the trust was gone. Arguments piled up. Money, his lack of ambition, his mother's meddling. Nora filed for divorce, walked away, and started over with Clara in the Maple Street tenement. Silas couldn't accept it, especially when he heard Nora was meeting someone new, a rumor that fueled his rage. He thought you'd never leave, Evelyn said. When you did, he lost control. Killing Clara and Sadie wasn't just about covering up. It was about punishing you. Nora flicked ash from her cigarette, her jaw tight. I didn't cheat. I didn't betray him. I just wanted out. Why wasn't that enough? Evelyn had no answer. She'd seen it before. Love twisted into something dark, where rejection became a wound too deep to heal. Silas's actions weren't just about Nora. They were about his own insecurities, his need to possess what he couldn't have. Clara and Sadie paid the price for his cowardice. Detective Leo Carver joined them, his coat slung over his shoulder. DA says the case is airtight. DNA, shoes, confession. Silas isn't walking free, ever. Good, Nora said, her voice hard. I just wish I could tell Clara and Sadie it's over. Evelyn glanced at Carver, then back at Nora. They'd want you to keep going. Live the life Silas tried to take from you. Nora nodded, but her eyes were distant. She stubbed out her cigarette and walked away, her figure fading into the gray afternoon. Back at the station, Evelyn sat at her desk, the case file closed but heavy in her hands. Blackthorn was quiet again, its secrets buried once more. But the case left a mark, a reminder of how love could curdle into hate. Silas and Nora's marriage hadn't ended in betrayal or infidelity, just a slow erosion of trust. Over money, over ambition, over a stolen $300 that became a spark for something far worse. Evelyn wondered, not for the first time, why some people could let go while others clung until they destroyed everything. Carver dropped into the chair across from her. You think Nora'll be okay? Eventually, Evelyn said. She's strong. Stronger than Silas ever was. Carver grunted. Guy's a textbook case. Couldn't handle losing her, so he lashed out at anyone close. Pathetic. Evelyn leaned back, staring at the ceiling. It's more than that. He didn't just want Nora back. He wanted her to suffer for moving on. That's not love. It's ownership. She thought of the original story's closing words, the reflection on relationships and closure. Most people, when a marriage ends, try to move forward, some as friends, some as strangers. But for someone like Silas, retreat wasn't an option. He saw Nora's freedom as a personal betrayal, her happiness as a theft of his own. It was a mindset Evelyn had seen too often in Blackthorn, small-town grudges that festered until they exploded. You ever wonder, Carver said, breaking her thoughts, why some folks can't just walk away? All the time, Evelyn said. Love's a funny thing. Step forward, it's everything. Step back, and it's either nothing or a war. Silas chose war. Carver nodded, then stood. Beer. Evelyn smirked. After this case? Make it two. As they left the station, the lights of Blackthorn flickered on, casting long shadows across Maple Street. The tenement stood silent, its charred third floor a scar on the town's memory. Evelyn knew the case was closed, but the questions it raised, about love, loss, and the line between devotion and destruction, would linger long after Silas Reed's cell door slammed shut.